So I'm going to share over the next 15 minutes some tips that I learned about how to hire great employees. The tips were accumulated during 5 years of working at a company called Rackspace in the US, where we grew from about 3,000 employees when I was hired to 6,000 employees. And the thing that's interesting to keep in mind for the talk today is that we did it while consistently being ranked one of the best places to work by all of the major publications in the US who track these types of things. Fortune, Forbes, the Sunday Times, Glassdoor. Everybody recognized that there's something really special about Rackspace, the company. And so a lot of people think that building a great company, especially kind of the image of Silicon Valley, is that it's all about the perks. And at Rackspace, we had those. You know, really interesting architecture on all of our buildings. You know, various open spaces for employees to work in. Slides that don't advance when you click on the button. Let's see. We're having a technical problem. Oh, here we go. So open spaces, bike parking, a slide, random vintage Mini Coopers in the office, and of course game rooms. But the thing to remember about building a great company is that no one wants to play ping pong with an asshole. So when you're building a great company, it's really about putting together a team of people that gel together, that are on the same mission, that are inspired to work towards a common goal. And that all starts with hiring. Hiring the right team is the single most important thing that you can do to control your own destiny. You know, the right team can correct almost any problem that comes up in your business. So you go to market with the wrong product. The only way you're going to fix that is if you have the right team. The wrong team and the right product going to market, you're going to fail. So you have to hire well. It's the single most important thing that you can do. So why is that? Well, the reason is because the wrong people drain the right people. They absolutely drain the life out of the right people. Managers end up spending all of the time giving orders versus setting strategic direction. Other employees on the team end up spending a lot of time picking up the slack of the people who aren't pulling their own weight, and they get frustrated and they leave. You can always correct a bad hire. You can fire the person, but it's extremely time-consuming, it's extremely draining, and it's something that should be avoided at all costs. So kind of scaling Rackspace in terms of number of employees in a high-growth market, we formulated some rules of thumb, I'll call them, versus rules that worked really well for us to make sure that we're always adding the right people to the team and avoiding bad hires. So I'm going to walk you through 4 of those now. So the first thing you have to get comfortable with is that it's much better to say no to the right person than it is to say yes to the wrong person. The cost of hiring the wrong person is so high in terms of lost productivity, in terms of damaged morale with the rest of the team, that you need to set up a structure in order to avoid that at all costs. And sometimes that means being ultra conservative on who you hire and potentially saying no to someone who could have been a good fit, so that you almost drive to zero the risk of bringing the wrong people onto the team. So how do you do that? Well, it starts with a diverse hiring team, and I'm going to get to more of this in a minute. You start with a diverse team. You have everybody interviews the candidate, and then you give everybody on that team essentially the ability to veto the hire. You give people broad responsibility, and in my experience, I've never seen an instance where people have abused that power. It's like crowdsourcing your hiring decisions. By letting a large group of people interview the candidate, work with the candidate, it's very unlikely that something that's a critical flaw in that person is going to get through a large panel of people. And so at Rackspace, we hire just a ton of people, sometimes 500 or more people a year, and so we have to do a lot of this. And so we formalized a voting system that worked really well for us. If you're a much smaller team, you probably don't need something so formal. But there is one key thing you need to realize about this system, which is that basically, after everybody's interviewed the candidate, everybody gets together and discusses the candidates, the positives, the negatives. And at the end of the day, everybody gets to vote. It's a secret vote because what you have in a lot of companies is various power structures where, you know, a very senior manager wants to bring someone in. Maybe they know him from an old job. You have other people on the team, people that the person's actually going to work with. also on the team, and there's kind of these power dynamics, which makes it harder for some people, especially introverts, to really vote their conscience if they have to do it in a public manner. So you do a secret vote so that if you disagree with your stupid boss, you can veto hiring that person because you're just as important to the team as anybody else. And if you're not going to be able to work with that person, that's a real problem. So you basically have 4 votes. And the key thing here is that the negative votes are twice the weight of the positive votes. That means if 4 people on a team say, you know what, I think this person would be a pretty good fit, and one person saw something in the interview where it makes them think, we're only going to hire this person over my dead body, that one person's vote outweighs 4 people that are kind of lukewarm to the person. And so what this does is it makes it much harder for a bad hire to slip onto the team. Sometimes, yes, people have false impressions, and if they don't exercise those hard nose and those soft nose cautiously, you can end up rejecting some otherwise good people, but you're almost certain to not hire the wrong people. So everybody votes. You end up, if the person gets a positive score overall, you can extend an offer. If they don't, you can't. Now, this seems really mathematical, and I've talked about this before. I've written it on my blog, and it ended up getting a lot of really, really negative feedback. And to my mind, I think that tells me that we're onto something right, because it feels really mechanical. But I've seen it in practice where this has absolutely saved us, and when we haven't done this, it's killed us, especially with executive level positions. So if you bring on a new executive into your company, and then that person has carte blanche to hire whoever they want, if that person has good judgment, that's great. If they have bad judgment, and I've seen this happen, they end up hiring people that they worked with in the past. They're not good culture fits. They don't have the same philosophy with the rest of the company, and it starts to look like a lot like a cancer when this type of process isn't followed. So it's really an insurance mechanism to make sure that things like that don't happen at whatever level of the company. I've seen executives being brought onto the team where it's worked really poorly, and then I've seen really high-level people, senior vice presidents brought in on this manner where the people that are going to be working for them are the people that end up effectively hiring them, and it works really, really well because it creates a sense of unity within the team. So back to the diverse team. One of the things you need to realize is that people aren't unidimensional, and so your hiring team shouldn't be either. So uncovering the good and screening out the bad takes a diverse team. When I say diverse, what I mean is diversity of role, diversity of gender, diversity of ethnicity, diversity of seniority. Get as diverse a hiring team as you possibly can. I have an example of where this worked really well to screen out someone that would have been a bad fit for the team. I was the non-technical interviewer for a technical community manager that we were hiring about a year ago at Rackspace. And they're a technical community manager. They need to be very, very technical. They need to be able to engage in public conversations about really low-level technology questions. And so we wanted someone that was a consummate computer scientist. And so they went through the interview. They passed all the technical screeners with absolutely flying colors. They were really a world-class engineer. And I got a chance to talk to them, and I was really enjoying the conversation. And so I asked them, tell me about a time when you got involved in a controversial discussion online about technology. You pick, tell me about a time that happened. And their response really blew my mind, which was to say, I don't really see the value of talking to other people online. That's totally cool. I totally respect that. But for a technical community manager, that's a fatal flaw. And because we had a diverse team, because I was really interested in how this person was going to be outward-oriented, and the technical team wanted to make sure that they really understood technology at a low fundamental level so that we didn't embarrass ourselves talking in public, they missed that crucial detail. And so we didn't end up hiring this person thanks to a diverse hiring team. You want to keep in mind, though, that you usually hire for a position, but a lot of times you come across really great people that are perfect culture fits that just aren't right for the role. So when you're hiring, remember the most important thing is to get the right people on the team. Sometimes you find the right person, they're just not right for the role. Do everything that you possibly can to figure out a way to bring that person onto the team. It's absolutely critical, and sometimes you just kind of have to take a leap of faith and say, you know what, this person, they're smart, they're passionate, they're a great culture fit. Let's hire them and then figure it out. It works really well when you do it like that. The last tip is about interviewing itself, and that's to ask real-life questions. People are terrible judges of their own performance. And the only way to predict future performance is to look at what people did in the past. And that doesn't mean you're looking for people who have never made mistakes. You're looking for people who understand that they made a mistake, why it was a mistake, and why they would do it differently in the future. To go back to the community manager example, you know, if I had asked that person, you know, what would you do if someone responded to one of our blog posts saying that a core technology choice that we had made was a bad one? I think they would have told me, well, if they said this, I would say this. If they said this, I would say this. But the way I asked the question was, tell me about a time that you got involved in a controversial discussion online. And it turned out that they just don't have any interest in being part of those discussions. When you ask hypothetical questions, it's an opportunity for people to give you an idealized version of themselves. And this isn't that people are bad. I would do exactly the same thing if you asked me a hypothetical question. I would tell you what I think I would like to do in that situation. It's much, much different from what I would actually do in a real situation. And really great interviewing, one question can take you for an hour as you dig and you dig and you dig into the motivations of people. It's a very effective technique, much more effective to get to know who someone really is and how they would behave in completely new and unusual circumstances based on how they've behaved in the past. So those are the 4 tips that I have to share. It's great. Thanks for having me. And here's my contact information. I've just actually moved to France. We'll be living in Nantes. So if you're local, let's catch up. If you're not, here's my contact information, and would love to grab a coffee sometime. See ya.